Hi everyone, I am your host, Jade Haggard, podcasting from Art Universe Laboratory. Welcome to Artist Solace. Hello again, and thank you for listening to episode 12 of Artist Solace. Joining me in the laboratory today is Mr. Guy Zimmer to talk about his life of photography. Guy lives in Indianapolis, Indiana with his wife and 2 daughters, but is originally from Vietnam. Throughout the episode, we learn about what his journey has been like pursuing photography. We learn about how he got interested in the art, where he got his initial experience, and what cool projects he is working on currently. It was also fun learning about some of his other work experience, hobbies, and interests pertaining to science fiction and what he referred to as the macro world. Guy was 7 years old when he moved to the United States. During the Vietnam War, his mother got engaged to an American soldier, which allowed them to fly back to the States and live in Bloomington, Indiana. He lived in Bloomington for about 40 years, met his wife there, who was also from Vietnam, and then moved to Indianapolis. His story proves to be quite interesting throughout the conversation, especially regarding the story of his wife and how her family survived the Vietnam War. I think the most profound part of the conversation is when we find out how his experience in Vietnam influenced his interest in photography. This one was another tearjerker for me, so if you are a sensitive person, I would come prepared with some tissue, my friend. It's stories like these that are especially inspiring to me, which I elaborate on towards the end, about people who survive war, tragedy, moving to a different country, having to completely re-socialize, yet are still able to prevail and take advantage of opportunities that are laid out in front of them and reduce just a little bit the unnecessary suffering that is characteristic of life. With that being said, I hope you can extract some inspiration from this guy's story. See what I did there? Thanks so much, Guy, for coming and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it. Enjoy. I am here with my friend and fellow artist, Mr. Guy Zimmer, who is a photographer, and he currently lives in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hi, Guy.
Hello, Jade. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. Better now that the sun's finally out.
Yeah. I know I had to stand outside before you got here. I stood outside for a little bit.
Take some of that heat in.
I mean, I already went running today, but when I run, of course, it's not like relaxing. Yeah. I'm not like, I'm trying to torture myself to feel better at the end of the day. But to actually stand in the sun on a nice day in Indiana, it's, it's great. I'm grateful for that whenever it does happen.
I know. Well, especially last 3 or 4 weeks of all this gloominess and thunderstorms.
Seems like since March it's been, well, not March, April, it's been raining.
Since early April.
A lot.
Yep.
So, it's been a relatively cool summer. But anyway, so we're going to talk about you and your life as a photographer.
Sure.
And life in general. Hope to find out some interesting things about you and ask you some questions about your life. So,
sure thing.
Now, what are you doing right now? What are you doing these days as far as photography? You seem like you have a pretty regular clientele.
Well, I try to. I pick up gigs here and there. As you know, my full-time profession is working with you at the JW Marriott.
Yes, sir.
But my part-time gig is picking up photo shoots here and there. I deal with a lot of portraits. I'm getting more toward the portrait side than I have been in the past, which was sports photography. Prior to coming to JW, before I moved up to Indianapolis, I worked at Indiana University as a sports photographer for about 14 years. Started out as a little side gig, picking up jobs here and there, then got on board full-time and was able to travel with the teams, so it's a fun gig.
Sports photography. Now, okay, you did this at Indiana University?
Indiana University down in Bloomington, yep.
And was that where you were living?
I was living, yes. I actually, when I first came to the States here, I moved down to Bloomington, and I lived there for a good 42, 43 years before coming up to Indianapolis here.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that seems like a pretty nice city to live in at first. Yeah. Right on.
It's very, very cultural. Very diverse because of all the students, the 35,000 students that come in and out every season.
Oh, what year was... I just interviewed Constance Edwards Scopolitis. What year were you?
So that would have been 80, probably started out 86, 87.
Okay. Man, she went there in the 70s, so that would have been funny. I don't know. I'm still trying to gauge how old you are because you look a lot younger than...
Yeah, I'm hitting my mid-50s next month.
Okay,
so.
not bad. You still have like a full head of black hair, so good job.
It's getting great.
So you were doing sports photography. So now what would you do for sports photography? Like what kind of pictures did you take for the sports teams?
Well, with that, if you were to pick up a program at IU, if you go to a sporting event, or if you have a student that's getting ready to enroll into the university, they will send you a brochure. In that brochure would be an onslaught of photos of the campus and the student life and even sports work. So at the time when I was working at IU, we did a lot of the, what they call grip and grin images, where your publicity images, where you put in brochures to entice people who want to visit the IU campus. So student activities, the fun social events that the student culture community would hold, then various sporting events like basketball, football, and soccer. At the time when I was working there, soccer and basketball have always been a huge calling for the sports world. So we had a lot of national championships with those two teams. That's when I was there.
And did you say, I'm trying to, of course, keep up with my memory here. Did you say you were a student at IU?
I was a student there, then I also left, then came back, worked as a student, and then full-time after.
Were you majoring in art, photography,
Actually,
or was it?
U.S. history is what this is my background.
Really?
But I picked up photography on the side and just kind of built up from there. So I just love photography and stuck with it.
Interesting. So you're majoring in U.S. history. Okay. Well, now what was fascinating about, what interested you in U.S. history?
I just love history. When I came to the States, pretty much have to learn about my culture that I'm living in. So living here in the U.S., I had to learn the, lifestyles of various people, learn the communities that I lived in, learn the other cultures as students that I meet would come through the campus. So that just enticed my, intrigueness of the whole realm of learning other cultures. Then as I grew up during my middle school and high school years, I just loved the history aspect of the Revolutionary War, and then getting to the World War II, and then the Vietnam War, which what I grew out of.
Yeah. So you had to completely re-socialize. How old were you when you moved over here?
I came over when I was 7. That's
wow.
72.
Oh man, I want to say it's probably the younger you are, the easier it is to re-socialize. I'm sure it's still hard, but so you were 7, and then you it was necessary for you to learn the culture, so then that sparked your interest.
I had to acclimate myself with the whole new lifestyle because everything that was Vietnamese for me was pretty much dropped. My mom, it's just my mom myself at the time. My stepdad who brought us over, she believed that since I'm over here in the States, I need to learn and live the way a U.S. student would live. So we hardly spoke any Vietnamese at home, which is my regret now. But
do you speak it still?
I had to. I had to relearn it all when I started dating my current wife, who I was dating later years, because her parents in her household, they don't speak English. So her siblings and her parents, it's all strictly Vietnamese. Whereas in my household, it's all English, because she wanted me to learn English and learn the culture and every aspect of it. So I lost a lot of Vietnamese and lost my writing skills and such. So then I had to relearn it when I started dating my wife.
That's it's kind of a
So total
because I don't
direction.
think I've ever heard you talk about it or speak at
No.
work. So me and George were talking about it the other night. You know, like we hear the other gentleman, Canon Christian. They speak it often, and
They speak Chinese.
Really?
Din, Can, Christian, and myself are the only Vietnamese employees there.
Yeah.
They understand it. Ken and I speak Vietnamese very rarely. Christian, I don't know how much he knows this, if he still does. But what you hear with them, those two, they speak Cantonese, Chinese.
Oh, wow.
But they're born in Vietnam, but they're raised in China, so they are more fluent in Chinese. That's why you always hear them speaking Chinese.
Oh, wow. See, I learned something new.
I know Din doesn't speak Vietnamese because when we first got orientation together, being a respectful person I was, she's an Vietnamese elder, so I spoke Vietnamese to her, tried to get to know her, but she had very little Vietnamese at the time, or that she doesn't speak it, so I really still can't tell if she does or not.
But I don't really know her story. I just know she's from Vietnam.
I know she'd be an interesting person.
Exercises a lot.
Yeah.
But I just saw her at the Y yesterday in the locker room. She's like, Jade! She just got done swimming for 2 hours. Yeah, she seems like an interesting lady, man.
Yeah.
But, so you came over here, and then right now you were talking about how you lost, like, your language. You stopped speaking Vietnamese, and it was strictly English.
Right.
Did you have to take any classes?
None whatsoever. It's all just, my mom and her friends, they speak a lot of Vietnamese because my mom at the time knew no English whatsoever. So the friends that she had met and stayed in touch with, they're constantly speak Vietnamese, of course. And anytime we get social events together, it's all strictly Vietnamese. So I listen and pick up. So that's how I can comprehend more than I can speak it. So
of course,
if I was still in Vietnam now, I'd probably end up struggling because I can't speak it as well as I would be able to understand.
Course. I think it's good or true with any language. Like in my case, if I'm trying to learn Spanish, I can understand more than I can. Like I really have to think about what I'm trying to say in order to formulate a sentence. So it puts your brain to the test. Like it's a good way to keep your brain stimulated or whatever. But now, so you met your wife here in the States?
I did. She was a student at IU, and I was an employee of IU. There's a 10 years difference between us, so I'm pretty well into my job at IU at the time I met her. She was an incoming student. I met her as a job-related issue where she was in charge of the Vietnamese Student Association. So the gathering of these Vietnamese students would hold social events throughout the year on campus. So she, being the president at the time, hired me, or actually my group that I work with, to come and photograph their event. So that's how I met her, and then we pretty much emailed each other for a couple of years before we finally met and went out.
That's adorable. And her family only spoke Vietnamese.
All Vietnamese, strictly Vietnamese. Yeah.
Interesting. And you talk English really well. You have a really good accent.
Yeah, that's all from growing up here, eating here.
You're so young,
Yeah. It helps being young, too.
Your brain is more plastic. So.
Yeah, a lot of the Vietnamese friends and people that I meet over the years, I have no Vietnamese dialect or Vietnamese accent because I grew up with the Hoosier accent or Bloomington accent.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who do speak Vietnamese had trouble understanding what I'm trying to say because my accents are totally the opposite.
Yeah, okay. So you said you worked at IU, so trying to imagine this scene. So you were a student there?
Yep.
Did you graduate?
Yep.
And then you worked there?
And then I worked there.
And what was your job?
Photography. I was a full-time photographer.
That's right, okay.
So I worked for Photographic Services, who would get hired on by various departments at IU. So let's say you're with the physics department, and you're holding a social event of a physics party for all the physics students. So you would come to us, hey, we need a photographer to come photograph this event on Friday night. Can you do that? So they in turn would get contact with one of us photographers who on staff say, we need for you to go to the physics department and do a little social party and document the event, the night's event.
But this was just your hobby, though. Like it
At
wasn't.
the time,
And you got hired.
career
as a
and hobby,
photographer?
yes.
Okay.
So-
Well, of course, yeah. You want to do it full time, but
Because I worked at IU as a staff member, so I was a part of the IU staff.
Okay.
But then I also do a lot of photography too for them. I was hired on as a photographer and a printer because we would print up the. Back then, we did everything by hand,
man,
so
I
we print all the black and white images, all the color images by hand. So
That's a
the
good
digital
point.
age hasn't been even fathomed yet.
Yeah, I'm so
So it's in a
sensitized
very infant stage.
to the digital world now that I forget that you actually used to, which I'm sure they still do, but before iPhones and computer technology
Oh, yes.
advanced, you had to. I mean, I remember that when I first went to college, they still had a dark room in the.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they might still, but when I was leaving my first community college, Vincennes University, they just started using digital photography as a means to develop film
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shoot pictures of your artwork, and then you had to make slides out of them. And oh man, that was a real tedious.
Yeah, everything was done by hand, so prints, slides, negatives, it's all developed by hand.
I still have some of mine. Those are gonna be real ancient someday.
It's making a comeback, don't worry.
Really?
It'll make a comeback. Kodak's got some really awesome slides, slide film that's hitting the market, and the sharpness and colors are so phenomenal. I think it'll make a comeback. I won't give up any of my film cameras because I know it'll make a comeback.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, kind of like records are making a comeback,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
those are kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So that's funny. So yeah, you worked as a photographer in Bloomington. Now, did you back then? Did you have experience? I think you said this in the past that you had experience shooting like actual artwork for art students because you did shoot mine.
Yes, part of our
Not back then. But
work, we do. IU has a huge fine arts department, and
Yeah.
we have some world-renowned professors and grad students who come through, and their artwork is phenomenal, and they would need it for their portfolio to go on further their career, and so they would hire us to photograph their art for them. It could be a wall mural of say 10 feet by 15 feet, or something as small as 1 inch by 3 inch. So we've done all sizes. The Lilly Library down there has huge collections of artwork, which we would document and would later be scanned for book publishing. IU Press is huge as well, and they've published a lot of books, especially like the Audubon books of North American birds. So we had to document a lot of the Audubon art prints, from actual paper print to digital print to go to publication.
Oh, okay. No,
So that was
Was that a pretty
my
big
experience.
project
It
then?
was a big project
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
so there's like a series of books,
Basically,
just
yes.
a certain amount of books
Yeah,
only. And then,
should do some research on that. The Audubon
Write that down.
artwork, there's a huge collection of Audubon prints, and these are all hand-painted prints by Audubon, and it got there's a shipwreck, and all his print was lost at sea. And some of it got recovered, some didn't, and a lot of it that did get recovered, the giant books, which are massively huge, they're like 3 feet by 4 feet books, and they're all hand-painted, hand-printed books.
Sounds bizarre.
And IU Library, the Lilly Library, has a large collection of it.
Okay, so it's in the Lilly Library. And that's
Yes,
down at IU.
That's IU, yes.
Wow.
Should check it out. Some really
It's so
cool
funny.
stuff.
Like IU is such a renowned university, and it's in kind of like a smallish town of Bloomington. It's interesting in a way, but I'm sure that they try to keep it maybe small for some reason. But
Yeah, go in there and scope it out. Should look into those art
there's a
prints.
nice
They're very cool.
Spring Hill Suites down there.
Yeah,
By
yeah.
Marriott. Okay, so you did sports photography. You were a photographer at IU. And this was back in the 80s?
Back in the 80s.
Okay. So then what happened? Where'd you go after that?
After I met my wife, or actually
Okay.
started meeting her and dating her, we got married, and after her graduation, she got a job with Walgreens, so I kind of moved along with her. We moved up to Indianapolis because that's where she got hired on. And so the commute back and forth took its toll on me for a couple of years, so I gave up IU and just find some sorts of job here in Indy. So at the time, I said, all right, let's do Walgreens like she did. So we were both working as Walgreens managers. I did that for about 10, 12 years. And then after that, came over to the JW. So it's a little bit of a road.
So, man, that's a long time, 10 to 12 years, man.
Yeah.
As a manager. And you just were hired on as a manager?
Yes.
Did you have any manager experience prior to that, or like?
I worked through the ranks. As I was growing up, I took various jobs. I worked at McDonald's, worked at a grocery store, and each job I worked my way up from entry level, whatever, to some kind of managerial position. So that's why I was able to be hired on as a manager straight out, because I had some managerial experience.
Yeah, man. Throw down that leadership experience, bro. I've never had a desire to move up really anywhere but my own art. So you were doing this, now this was in the 90s then?
Yeah, this is in the 90s.
So now were you pursuing photography at that time? Or
didn't.
How was that?
All throughout my career, I've always had photo gigs on the side.
Yeah.
I did a lot of weddings at the time, back in the late 80s and 90s. Everything I did was mainly weddings. Acquaintances, people I know, or people by word of mouth, I pick up wedding gigs here and there. Enough to get my hobby going and keep it going, sustain the...
But you still did it, though?
Oh, yes,
even
I
though
still
you were
did.
working at Walgreens.
Yeah, I never gave up. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Now, did that... So you say you were just doing weddings mostly at the time?
Mostly weddings, a lot of high school seniors, and then whatever reunion gigs that I'd pick up. These were a lot of IU people of the past that I'd met, various guests or customers I meet through Walgreens and such. So they would know that my background is in photography, so they hired me on to do the work.
Oh, man. So when you shot images in the 90s then, now this is just clarifying, of course. I think I know the answer to it, but you still had to develop them yourself?
Oh, yes.
And so did you have a dark room in your house?
I did, but I mainly do black and whites at home. So the color I'd send out, of course, it's a little more cumbersome, a little more stressful for the smell, the color chemicals versus black and white chemicals.
Kind of like painting versus drawing.
Yeah.
Blech. Where would you send them to?
Various labs. There's a couple of labs in Bloomington that would do custom prints for me.
I see.
I deal with that. And
so you wouldn't just take them to like Walmart?
Oh, no,
or like a
definitely
1
not.
hour.
Even now, I wouldn't recommend people do it. Although some digital machines do some nice prints. I'm
Really?
surprised how well they've come over the past few years, or the last 5 years.
Like at
Walmart or
Walgreens or whatever. Now those were... When you worked at Walgreens, because I remember starting to see at a certain point they had those 1 hour photos.
They did. They were just beginning to get involved with digital printing. So you'd bring in your disc that you get from your camera or your little flash card and bring it to Walgreens, and you can set it up and calibrate your images yourself and send it through the printing machine, or just send it through a home computer and send it to the nearest Walgreens, and then pick it up next day. But at that time, while I was working there, it's just beginning to get your consumer digital printing.
Yeah.
So it's just starting out. There's a lot more negatives when I was working there, but now it's all strictly digital.
Interesting. But when you were taking pictures, like as wedding pictures or anything, you developed the black and whites at your house, but
Right.
you would send the color photos to more professional
Oh yeah.
development agency.
Right. I would send out to like places like up in Chicago or in Virginia area. There's a couple of labs where I deal with, and they deal with strictly weddings or high school senior pictures. So their machines and chemicals are a little more calibrated, a little more maintained, better maintained than say like people like Walgreens or Walmart.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Accountability is a little higher.
When did you start at Walgreens?
99.
Okay.
2000.
That makes more sense now. And then did that change? Did your photography?
No, I did more. I tried to pick up more in that regard. My interest, because 2004, I had my first kid. My daughter was born in 2004. So that started more, I guess, revolutionized my interest in photography again. I got more interest, more gear, developing, buying better camera equipment so that I can take my kids' pictures. I was a little more,
nice.
it's more for personal gain than for, I guess, monetary gain. That aspect, it wasn't a big interest, but capturing and maintaining my kids' pictures versus photographing somebody else is kind of flip-flopped, because I put more interest in how I can photograph my kids and develop my own taste of photographing my kids than pursuing more of the outside interest.
Yeah, interesting. Makes it just seem a little more significant.
It did.
Because you want them to look great.
Yes. It's going on my wall, so I got to make it my perfect way.
Yeah, interesting point. Yeah. It's like, what would you want to hang up in your house? Did that make you better then? Like, you think it made you
It did,
just
because
pay more attention?
Everybody's their own worst critic, right? So, so to say. And so in seeing my images, I want to perfect it. I want to improve on how can I make this image that much more wow factor. It's going on my wall, so as guests and friends come in, they're going to see this picture. So I got to make it snazzy enough where they'd be impressed by it.
Yeah.
I think that personal interest, personal taste is a little different than everybody else's taste. So how I see my images and how other people see my images are contrasting differences.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's all, I was just editing one of my other episodes, and the comedian I was talking to was talking about how art is so, we were talking about pricing art.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's so hard because it's so subjective. That's what he said, and I was like,
yeah.
That's right. It's been one of the hardest things for me to do is when I was doing visual art is like pricing it. Like,
That's
how far can I go without being a dick? And then how far, like, what's something that I'm not, like, what's a price where I'm not just shortchanging myself? Like, what's the happy medium? Ugh, it's tough. I'm kind of glad I gave it up.
And it's tough now with photography, because nowadays anybody can pick up a digital camera and quote be a photographer.
Yeah.
So pricing and competing with a slew of students out there who has digital cameras and want to be quote a photographer. So you're competing with their style, their taste, their vision versus your style, your taste, your vision. And they're doing it for $50 because they want to gain the experience. You're going to do it for $500 because you're a better photographer in your eyes. You can develop this better. You can capture it better and light it better than...
You just have more experience.
Right.
So
that's where a lot of people don't see when they hire an artist, like a painter or even a photographer. They don't see the experience aspect of the artist versus the student. So who's going to give me the better quality, but who's going to give me a fairer price or a low economical pricing for my budget?
Yeah.
So it's hard
That's
because if you're a portrait painter, hey, I want to commission you to do my portrait. So do I go to you or do I go to a student artist over here that just graduated who can do it for 1/5 the price that you're charging?
Yeah. And what would I do in that
And it's hard.
case?
It's really
Because,
hard.
I would charge a lot. I would try to charge a lot for my paintings, thinking the same thing. Like, man, I have experience. Like, it takes a lot of time. But at the same time, I'm not. Well, it depends on your interest too. I'm not really interested in getting my kids' portraits professionally made. But if I were, would I want to go to like someone cheaper who may not be as competent, or like someone who's had a lot of experience that I'd pay like $1,000 for like an 8x10, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it's all subjective, and it's hard.
And that's the way with any kind of artwork, whether it's painting, drawing, photography, it's all subjective.
Yes.
And so it's really hard to get yourself out
Well, and that's what for me was hard. It's been hard trying to achieve a full-time status as an artist,
Right.
because it's like I don't really have a guidance to really price things. And one, I wasn't making the proper sacrifices, is what I think.
Right.
But still, it's like I kind of why I gave it up. Like, maybe I'm just not that interested in being like a full-time visual artist. Maybe I just don't care. But now I'm actually doing something that I like really like, and I don't care if people are listening. Like, no pressure, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun.
That's why I still keep it as a serious hobby.
Yeah,
My kids are beginning to hit high school, and I'm getting back into sports photography again because last 5 years I've been donating my time and photo work to the kids' schools so that the school can raise money by selling my photo work to parents. So I volunteer my time, I volunteer my photographs so that the school can sell it to the parents. Then the school will make some money in whatever, like the art department or library department or music department that had cutbacks. So
Oh, yeah.
so last year, for example, I dish out, say, $5,000 worth of photographic work for them. They turn into $20,000. So it's my way of giving back to the school, to my kids' school, and still be able to help them in whatever funding.
And you help the community too.
I do.
Like
I do.
like it's your own little way of.
It is.
Like, you kind of sacrifice your time, like it's something you like to do, but then you're helping your kids and you're helping their school, and then you're like helping their parents. Like it affects the whole network.
There's a lot of parents who work. They can't get out of work, so they can't see their kids in sports action. So I go to a lot of home games, photograph not just my kid, but all the other kids on the team, put it up on the website. They look at it, hey, I like this print. Can I buy this print here of my daughter or my son playing basketball? And then they get in touch with the school. The school say, hey, we can get that print for you. Here's $25 charge for this print. I print it up, give it to the school sell it to the students' parents. So there's $25 the school just made.
That's a good point, yeah. 'Cause parents, yeah. Like what you said they don't really get to see their kids play.
No.
Because they're working a lot.
Yeah, because a lot of games take place right at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock time when parents are still at work or coming home from work and they can't make it or don't barely make it in time to see the ending of it. So, and plus also too, a lot of parents can't photograph as well in school gymnasiums because they're caves or nightmare to photograph in because of lighting situation.
Yeah.
So with my experience in
they're just
sports
trying to photograph on their like iPhone, trying to like zoom in to something.
So I give them something that's more tangible to put on the wall.
Cool, man. I like that. Yeah, because I've seen some of your work online. Of course, I see you post like through social media, and I see you do some sporting events. What else did I see recently? Like you went out to PopCon. And was that just like a fun thing that you wanted to do?
I took my kids to PopCon because their first PopCon. My younger daughter is into anime. She loves anime. And so I told her, hey, if you want to go PopCon, you'll see a lot of anime because people love cosplay and dress up as anime characters. And we did. We saw a whole slew of them. I just happened to walk in on a costume contest. And so what you saw posted was a costume contest from amateur level to intermediate to professional level. So you see various stages of cosplay people who create their own costumes designed it and made it and showed off on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see a difference between amateur versus professional, and they go around various conventions all throughout the country and cosplay events, cosplay costume contests.
That's fun.
It's very fun.
I think I saw the picture of one of your daughters with the Bob Ross.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just some guys randomly walking around dressed as Bob Ross, getting his photograph taken by.
Okay, what does PopCon stand for?
Pop culture.
Pop
convention.
culture. Oh.
The con is the convention. So
Okay, that brings
culture.
a whole new perception of it now. I think of
So
PopCon.
Gen Con is Generation X.
I know. I'm thinking
so,
something like Gen Con, but it's PopCon. Any con I hear, I think
it's all convention.
Gen Con.
Yeah.
So it's like pop culture. And then what do they do? Like,
PopCon's more, I'd say, comic books, magazines, TV shows, cartoons. So people that are growing up and bring back their nostalgic memories.
yeah.
So anything that they love as a child or kid growing up, they want to relive that through cosplay, for example, or meeting up other geeks, in my case, who love Star Wars or Star Trek.
Because I was just about to ask, what are some of your geeky interests?
For me, it's Star Trek. I grew up watching Star Trek, the original Star Trek, and then I'm one of those who went to see Star Wars 14 times in a movie theater when it first came out in the theater. So you don't have instant replay on TV, so you can't record something or steal it off somewhere and download onto a computer and watch it 100 times.
You couldn't just,
you gotta pay the ticket and go and watch it.
Couldn't just bring it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, you had to go. My dad is obsessed. He would every time I go home, if he's not outside mowing the grass, he'll be inside watching Star Trek primarily first, or Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Some version of each. Usually the beginning stuff, because he liked the early stuff.
If it's on TV, I'll flip it. I'll keep it there and watch it myself, whether I've seen it 20 or 30 times.
That's great. Well, I grew up around that too, so I understand. I didn't get into them that much, but yeah, obsessed.
Oh yeah.
My dad is, and my mom will kind of complain about it. If I'll be out with my mom somewhere, we'll talk what's Dad doing? I don't know, probably watching Star Trek or Star Wars.
And that's what PopCon's all about. It's that childhood memory that you grew up with, and you want to meet up with other geeksters.
So what interests you so much about Star Trek?
I don't know. I'm a big sci-fi fan, so something like that, or fantasy movies like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, I still get involved with. I'm trying to set up photo shoots where get cosplay people dress up in whatever interest or themed events that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So next year, something we're getting lined up is a King Arthur type or Renaissance age theme. So we're trying to get together about 20 different people who want to dress up in various costumes, Renaissance costumes.
Oh yeah.
So that's something we're trying to line up now, try and get arrangements.
We as in who?
A lot of photographers, a lot of cosplay people.
Mm-hmm. Do you know a lot of photographers around town? Do you have?
I don't. There's a couple of photo clubs here in town which I'm beginning to meet up, join in. I just got done meeting a couple of friends from the Boone County Photo Club. We just did a photo shoot down at the canal last month. So that's my first time in meeting up with a real photo club and getting together, meeting and shooting and sharing our talents.
What'd you think of that?
It's very cool. I think I'm probably getting more involved over time. I'm trying to share ideas, share, I guess, lighting skills. Each of us have different shooting levels, so we try to teach other various skills or ideas or tricks of the trade, per se, in how to better light the situation or light the subject. And that's I guess that's something that's hard with any novice photographer, is teaching them the basics and teaching the tricks of the trade and enhancing the lighting situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I try to help students at school as well. The yearbook students who come up to me and ask, hey, this is what I get. How can I improve this? What can I do to make my pictures better? So it's my way of giving back to a student as they're learning their process, just as I did when I was in school learning my ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask, I get answers, I get trick of trades, or I get pointers. So I'm trying to pass this on down to the high school kids that I'm meeting up, or middle school kids that's shooting for yearbook.
Mm-hmm. But now you kind of have a club life now.
There's a club life.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. How many people showed up? And are they all from Indy? Or is it like...
They're all local.
Yeah.
We had 6 models who are all Indy based. One is a professional model. The others are getting into the realm of modeling.
So models and photographers.
Oh, yes.
met
Yeah.
up. Of course, because you need both
Right.
things, of course, unless you're like a landscape photographer.
Yeah, it's a PTF. Is it PTF? PFTs. PFTs were pictures
PYT.
pictures for
Michael
trade.
Jackson. I'm just
So
kidding.
you're trading.
PFT, pictures for trade.
Or pictures for print. Pictures trading print. Picture trade print. Where you're offering your photographic skills to the models. So in return, instead of paying the models for modeling for us, we pay them with prints. So models give their time to be photographed. Photographers give their photos, or in this case, digital files to the models for their portfolio.
I see.
So it's a
Nice
collaboration
exchange.
between models and photographers.
I never really saw it like that. Didn't you go somewhere? Isn't there some kind of
Yes,
convention in St. Louis?
St. Louis every year
Yeah,
around Easter
that's what you
time,
told
I
me
go
about.
to what they call Shutterfest.
Shutterfest.
And it is a gathering of, say, about 3,000 photographers and roughly 800 to 1,000 models. And they all converge into one hotel, or actually it's a Union Station where this whole base is. And we would trade each other's skills, collaboration, ideas, cultural sharing of everything. So everything from teaching to improving to collaborating. So we would get together and photograph. Let's say you have 2 models in this particular location, but then you have like 10 to 15 photographers shooting various ways, various visions of the same model. So the model in turn would get anywhere from 10 to 30 images from all these photographers photographing them.
Yeah. Then they could like use those to like advertise their
Oh yeah,
services.
a lot of them are professional models, and they give their time up, and then this way they get a whole slew of photographs or digital files to build up their portfolio.
Just like a big massive exchange sharing
Yes,
of
it is every year.
for photographers and models.
And they're expensive. I mean, models can range anywhere from $50 an hour to $500 an hour. So in this case, you're getting free models. Models get free photographers who also charge $50 to $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour.
That's crazy. Man,
Someday,
I
I hope to be in that same category, but
yeah. Someday, huh?
someday.
So what kind of things do you struggle with? Like, so would you say you're not real comfortable being like full-time yet, or trying to pursue it full-time? Like, what's...
I'm not. Interest isn't fully there. I would like to open up a studio, but that would come with time and money. In the process now of looking for a new home. So for that new home, I will probably set up a studio up front. That's one of the criteria that my wife and I are looking at for this next home that we're almost serious and looking right now. And we would dedicate a room, possibly 2, just for photographic work, and then make it into more of a more full-time situation.
What does she do?
She is a case manager for the state, so more of a social work. She deals with inspecting homes and inspecting caregivers, making sure that they're properly caring for their patients.
I see.
Let's say she has a patient that is wheelchair bound or homebound. They can't leave the house on their own. So they have caregivers who come in and care for the patient. So some caregivers, they have a little more controlling of how money is spent, like shopping for groceries or buying necessities for the home or taking care of the bills or cleaning, washing, tidying up the house. So she'd come in, inspect the house, make sure that that caregiver is properly handling the patient or handling their monies.
I see.
So she goes around throughout the state and check on the conditions, check on the patients.
Oh, through the state?
She goes as far up north as Gary, or as
Wow.
far east as Cincinnati.
She just stay there like overnight?
Oh,
like
sometimes?
No.
Or? She tried to limit on lengthy stays.
Yeah.
So a lot of visits are half hour, 40 minutes. There are some meetings where if she's getting a new patient, then it'd be a couple hours. But sometimes it does run into wee hours of the night.
Man, she ever get tired of traveling so much?
Yes,
She do it full time?
she is full time, yeah. But she works from home, so she's based out of home, but she scheduled visits and events on her time.
Oh, right on. Okay, that makes it a little
helps.
better if you
Yes.
can actually like I decided to schedule this, I'm gonna do it.
Yep.
So maybe it's not as bad. So, okay, now I have an idea more about the cycle of your life and I guess from when you came to the States. But so, like, when did you realize you had an interest in photography? Like, how young were you, and what happened?
I would say my middle school years. I started taking pictures when I was in 4th grade. It all started going to the Indy 500 track. It's a school field trip. We went up there. I had this little pocket 110 camera that a lot of little kids have. And I wanted to capture various drivers at the time. And I was comparing my pictures that I captured with other students at the time, their pictures. And mine just didn't look as cool as theirs because I guess the camera is 110 camera versus 35 millimeter camera. And that got me inspired to, hey, I want to take some better pictures to document my life. Going out of Vietnam, we had nothing on us or with us to record our past, our history. We were refugees, so we took off with whatever we had on our backs and left the country.
Yeah.
So documentation or photographs, we had nothing of. And I didn't want that to be...
Did you have them, though, in Vietnam? Did you have something like
we
that?
did.
Or were they destroyed?
Most of it did get destroyed during the war. We escaped out of there. My mom did bring with her 3 or 4 photo albums, which had maybe 20 or 30 pictures in it. Very little of the kids, because it's my brother and myself at the time. And there wasn't much to record as far as what we were able to bring with us. And so that's something I told myself, hey, I don't want to get in the same shoes where my kids would grow up and have nothing on them. And that's why I shoot so heavily of my kids, because I want my kids to have something tangible to have with them. So that's what really inspired me to stick with photography, because I want something lasting for my kids.
I see. So you, but they had cameras over there, like in Vietnam?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's just that because of the war, a lot of it got destroyed because the North Vietnamese army, the Viet Cong, as they say, came through and to pretty much destroy the villages in the south, because that's where they're trying to take over. That's what the whole Vietnam War is about, the North Vietnam versus South Vietnam, who are fighting the communists.
North Vietnam were fighting the South Vietnam.
The South
communists.
is the non-communist. The North is the communist, who is supported by the Chinese or the Russians, because they're both neighbors, per se. And so they're assisted by those two countries. And so the North Vietnamese came down through the South. That's why there's no longer North and South Vietnam, it's just all Vietnam.
Yeah. So they came through trying to push the ideology.
Yeah, sure did.
Now, was it Now, I have like a little knowledge. I'm starting to get interested in like governments that try to go totalitarian, you know. And I'm thinking of like right now I'm reading a book on the Soviet Union, and I just previously read something on Nazi Germany. So were they like, when they came through villages, were they trying to like anyone who went against that? Is that who they tried to
Correct.
like eradicate?
Right. They
Okay.
would try to eliminate any form.
Even if they just suspected it, you know, like.
Well, they would take over the village itself. So
I see.
either do it their way or be gone.
Okay.
So as they push their way southward, they would just take control of villages, eliminate whatever government they had in place, and would just totally control that area.
Okay. Now, how did you get out? Like, how did you survive?
At the time, my mother was dating a U.S. soldier. He was in the Army at the time. And after his tour of duty was over, he got engaged with my mom and said, hey, you want to come to the States?
Wow.
We'll get married in the States, and
So
I'll take you and your son out of here.
So he was over there
He was over there at the time.
for military
Stationed over there.
purposes, and then met your mom.
So once his tour was done, he said, let's leave here. I'll take you and your kid.
Did they get married in Vietnam?
We got married here in the States. So he lived in Pittsburgh. So after leaving Vietnam, we moved to Pittsburgh. They got married, and we lived there for a couple months till we could find a place to live and job. So after getting married, we moved to Bloomington.
Wow. What happened to your dad?
My dad died before I was born. So
Okay.
during the war, he was part of the South Vietnamese Army
Okay.
fighting the North. So while my mom was pregnant with me, he, I guess, died in battle.
I
So
see.
he was, because they hardly saw each other at the time, and he was on various missions. And so my mom, who also worked with the military, she worked on a U.S. military base. So she was able to, I guess, be friends with and mingle with the U.S. military because she lived on the base.
I see. So she worked. Okay, so she worked for the military
Yeah.
base, and then that's how she met your
Yeah.
dad. That's incredible. Anytime I meet or I hear of people surviving things like that,
Oh, yeah.
if I hear of Holocaust survivors now that I know when I learned the horrible things
Yeah.
that they did, and now that I hear about survivors, I'm way more astounded.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how the hell did they
Well,
survive?
I
You
got
know
the
what I
easy
mean?
way out. I mean, I flew first class across the ocean on Pan Am, but my wife's family, they're refugees. They were
Oh,
what
yes,
they call
'cause she's
boat
from-
people.
Okay.
I'm not sure how your knowledge on Vietnamese war is, but the boat people are your survivors who would travel out, cast off into the ocean, and hope for the best, and
Yeah.
the boat would come by and
They would just
pick them up.
escape the village
Yeah.
somehow.
They would
and then-
escape the country and whatever they can carry on board, pay whatever fees that these boat captains would want to charge, and head out to sea, hope for the best. So in her case, they were escaping through the jungle and escaping the North Vietnamese army that's chasing them, and was able to get to a refugee camp. Sat there for a few months hoping to find space on the boat, and then cast off out at sea for 6-7 months before they were finally found.
That's incredible too.
Yeah.
I read a little bit about that when we had our first initial conversation about that, and you told me to look at boat people. I did.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of homework. There's a book I'm actually gonna get after I read this. So the Gulag Archipelago.
Yeah.
This is just one of a 3-book series, and at my
the Gulag,
pace,
yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
3 years and I'll be done with that. But anyway, so I want to buy the book about the boat people just. Because I think what the lady did, the author went and interviewed survivors and just wrote about their accounts. I don't know if she did a reflection at the end or but so that's on my list of things to learn about.
Yeah.
So they were on the boats for 6 or 7 months.
Oh yeah,
And
because the parents sacrificed their food just to feed 2 kids that they had at the time.
how did they get food?
Well, they rationed. Everybody got rationed foods.
What does ration
So
mean?
ration, you're given X amount, just say 1 bowl of rice for a family of 4. So how you want to split that, it's up to you.
Well, how would they get the food though onto the boat?
But the boat,
Like,
the ship would have food to feed the refugees. So you
Okay.
have the ship has X amount of rice.
who controlled the ships?
Whoever is in charge of the boat,
Would it be Vietnamese? Or,
this case would be Vietnamese.
Okay.
So you're looking at, in this case, it could be black market sea captains who want to take charge. Well, same thing with, for example, Haiti refugees. Hades, who else is down there? El Salvador has refugees. So you've got those people who are escaping onto boats, hoping to reach Florida. Same manner. So you're out at sea, hoping for the best that you reach either Florida or one of the neighboring ship lanes would have a ship cruising by and, hey, let's pick these people up and
yeah.
take them to the nearest shore.
Now, in Vietnam's case, though, like where I'm thinking it's at globally, were they trying to go to California or like West United States?
They would be trying to go north.
North?
That'd be Japan,
Okay.
or south, which would be the Philippines.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you can, because you got vast Pacific Ocean to the east of Vietnam, which would be way too far.
Okay.
So they would try either north or south, try to hit one of the island
Okay.
countries.
Yeah, that makes more sense then, I guess.
So hopefully the waves would stray them into the shipping lanes
Yeah.
that go south to the Philippines.
Where'd your wife end up then?
They,
In her family? She was with her family?
her mom and dad,
Luckily.
her and her younger brother at the time. Then her mom was pregnant with another child. So they were skipping meals and giving the meals to the kids so the kids can survive. So they would eat every other day, giving the kids. But they had a huge struggle in reaching the States compared to myself. So you got
Yeah.
a total vast difference in our journeys, I guess.
Yeah. Did she try to go to Japan or like Philippines?
Whatever camp they can get to. So
Yeah.
they were able to be picked up and was taken to a refugee camp. And I'm not for sure where that camp is, but they were sponsored over by a church here in Chicago. So a lot of the churches at the time, back in the 70s, were sponsoring various refugees from around the world. And this church was based out of Chicago. They were able to get several Vietnamese families and bring them over to the States and acclimate them to a whole new life. Provide them shelter, provide them food, clothing, whatever job they can pick up. And that's what happened to them.
Because they went to Chicago,
They
and
went to
then,
Chicago.
then they
the
wound
church
up in
sponsored, yeah.
How did your wife end up in Bloomington?
School. She went to IU. So she grew up in Hammond.
How old was she? So she was what?
She would been 7 or 8 also, 5 or 6 when she came over. Is that right?
Okay.
Yeah, she'd be about 5 or 6 when she came over.
Okay, so like you guys had opportunity to grow up in the school systems here.
Yes.
And like kind of build yourself up.
Yeah.
And that's how you're able to get into college. So
Yeah.
right on. So she went to IU too.
Yeah.
And that's how you met. I think that's incredible too. Whenever like people from it's interesting to me. Like you, incredibly enough, you both escaped Vietnam, and then you actually wound up in one place, and then that's a nice love story. Oh, man. So how do your daughters do in school? They seem like they do pretty good.
They are phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're both smart.
Do they have any artsy?
I tried
traits, or-
I tried pushing that onto them, photography and art, but they're just not picking up.
How old are they?
15 and 14.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So both
Okay.
high school now.
Right
One's going to be a freshman, one's going to be a
You never
sophomore.
know what'll manifest.
Yeah, we'll see.
I didn't get interested in pursuing art until I was in high school. Music, not until my early 20s. So, but I wasn't around a lot of art too either. So, in your case, you would say you tried to push them.
Yeah, we try to push anything that
Foster
we can.
the talent, but
Yeah. We try make it diverse, give them anything they're willing to try.
Yeah, that's
Hopefully
awesome.
something would pick up out of it, but
They're like little projects.
yeah,
You never know. Might be the most bizarre thing.
I hope.
You think. You never know. That's the fun part about kids. You don't know. You wish the best for them, but like...
But as long as
you don't
they're healthy
know.
and doing well in school,
Right.
that's all that matters.
And they're
So
good people.
whether they pick something up or not.
Now, you getting interested in photography. You said you got interested because you wanted... Well, partly what you said is that you wanted you want your kids to have some, like, memorable tokens for
Yes.
when they grow up, because that's something you did not...
Yes, growing up as a elementary student and middle school student, I often go to my friend's house and play.
Mm-hmm.
And on their walls are pictures galore of them growing up. So you got family portraits of the kids and them growing up from age 1 on up to whatever age we were at the time. So that got me to be jealous because we have nothing like that at home. So being a poorer, I guess, family who don't have that kind of memorabilia, it got me inspired to, hey, I want to be able to have something like this, or I want my family to have something like this, or I want the idea of that other people should have something like this, where they grow up and have something that they can hold in their hands and keep of their history. And that's how I got interested in history as well. I like the past. I love the past. And I want people to be able to live their past, know their past, understand their past. Whether it's by reading about their past, recording their past, or images of their past.
So that's something you think is really important.
I think it's
nowadays.
very important.
Especially after what you went through.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, we lost everything. We have no records of photographs of my childhood. Just a few remnants of whatever my mom was able to carry with her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just maybe a dozen or two small 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid. There's a lot of space in between that and high school, which we didn't get.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I feel just with other kids that has it.
Mm-hmm. So here's trying to move on to like your interest in photography. Now, when you're out shooting photography, like say you're just going out for fun. I know you said you like popcorn was fun,
Mm-hmm.
but like what really like interests you to photograph? Like what do you just like to photograph? Like if you're going out into the forest or if you're going out somewhere traveling, what gets you going? Like what's really like, man, this is really good. Or
I don't know. Overall, it's just documentation. I like to see everything around me. In high school, sports was one thing, but then macro work was another thing, where I'm doing close-ups of flowers. I love colors of flowers. I love plants, insects. So seeing bugs on flowers, I've documented. Back in high school, all my photo contests were of colorful flowers or insects on flowers or butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
So my macro work is recording and documenting microscopic size bugs and projecting that up onto a 11 by 14 size image.
Yeah.
So we got 11 by 14 size bee or butterfly hanging on my walls at home.
Why do you think you're interested in that?
I don't know, different world. It's also a different life. I just like to record what's around me. At the time when I worked at IU, I would go to one particular person's garden every summer just to document her flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something I love, enjoy. Document it for her because she can't take pictures, then document it for myself so that I can have it for my personal interest.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that I feel I can document that I would like or somebody would like, I would shoot. That's why I volunteer so much for the school, because I want to document for the kids. They may not think of it now, but 20 years from now, they look back, hey, I remember this person here shooting this picture of me. I'm glad because my parents weren't able to.
Yeah, or like that it sparks a memory of them actually doing that thing. I kind of think of that now. If I see pictures of myself like doing something in elementary or middle school, it's the older I get, the more I'm like, man, that was so long ago. I was such a different little human. Like,
and that's why I do it. I mean, I love documenting. I mean, I love documenting kids. I love documenting the seniors out there. My stepdad, that currently, he's a retired Marine, and one of his projects was recording in conversation of veterans who were in World War II, and he did traveling around the state, go to their homes and do recordings of their experience during World War II, and that's something that I felt that's really cool. Maybe I should start documenting something like that, and I wanted to follow him and take pictures of these vets while he's recording, but unfortunately he got out of that, lost interest in it, or that the vets are harder to come by because a lot of World War II vets are begin to fall off.
Yeah. I took care of an elderly man who was in his 80s, who was in World War II. He actually played in the Navy jazz band during the war.
That's cool.
But that's actually where I mainly learned clarinet, because he was a musician. Like, he went to Butler, met his wife there. It's an interesting story, really. But yeah, he passed away in 2014, a few days after my daughter was born. So, yeah, they're all like in their 80s, 90s now. They're slowly.
And they're all real frail, or that they're in nursing homes.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. That's something I wanted to do too, is to travel with them and record and maybe take pictures of them in their uniforms that they can fit in. And, and do a nice little documentation, a nice little collage of their images then and before, and something to give to their relatives before they pass.
Oh, yeah,
but
man.
Unfortunately,
it's like a memory
that didn't
token.
come through.
Yeah, you'd have to like go across the U.S. now to try to find more of a group, because in one area, like in the town of Indy, there probably are less.
Yeah.
Maybe after you retire, like buy an RV and.
Maybe the next one would have to be Vietnam vets. Maybe that'll be my next project, is finding some Vietnam vets and just go through and record their stories and document their images before and during.
And that'd be an attachment to you too, man.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe that'll be my next project. Thank you. I'm always trying to come up with some ideas and projects to do.
Gotta buy an RV.
So
travel around.
Yeah, there's still quite a few Vietnam vets here in the state, so there's plenty to go.
Yeah, I mean, so that was back in the 60s. So what, they're like 60s,
so they're in 70s
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, even some of them are
80s,
getting pretty frail. Because we had the group, the Vietnam helicopter pilots at the JW. That was really interesting.
That's very cool. I like that. I met a couple. Hope they come back and I'll meet them again and start something up.
Yeah, I was wondering if they would come again this year, but I don't know how often they like.
Yeah, I don't know how often they meet.
Event.
Maybe every 5 years, or they rotate cities.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like my education of Vietnam is Forrest Gump level, so I'm sure people my age understand that.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate thing too. Is like I love teaching people history, and that's something that is slowly decreasing in school history books. It's the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
So as I go around talking to students or teaching students, I would try to instill a little bit of history and get their interest in maintaining their interest in history. And that's something that I feel that all kids should learn and grow up with, is not only their past, but how other past reflects them growing up now.
Yeah. So that's important to you.
I think it's important.
Yeah, I do too. I agree. Because, yeah, like I said, I've just now been getting real interested in history. Unfortunately, we were taught, we were taught about the Holocaust when I was in 8th grade, but like I just wonder, like, if it's not taught the right way. Or it's like, I didn't really know how big of a deal it was.
Yeah.
I understood that a lot of Jews died, but, like, it's all data. It's like it's data and not really, like, meaning or concept or what was going on in the government, what was going on with the people. Like, what the hell is anti-Semitism? I just now learned what that was, like, a month ago because I wanted to know. Like, no one, I don't know. They just, I don't know. Like the impact of those things is not really
that's just it. The impact
conveyed.
Of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How it impacted everybody's lives.
And how it could impact ours today. Yeah. Like, how it could impact mine as an American.
I mean,
and what kind of
before
attitude.
it's the Holocaust, but to today's Generation X or Generation Z, it's more of the gay movement.
Yeah.
So, anti-gay movement, anti-Jewish movement. It's not the same, but it's the same.
Well, it might lead to the same thing. Yeah. Unless we watch ourselves. And that's something I've been learning about, too, is, like, how to change my mind about some things in order to not get to that point.
That's just teaching the kids, hey, this is part of history. This is part of your life. This is part of something you could be involved with.
Because we're human, and so are those people.
Yep.
I think we're going to go ahead and end the conversation. I really enjoyed having you.
I like this.
And I got to watch, because I'm trying to just record for like an hour, but the past few have been going for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I've seen some of it. It's very cool. I mean, it goes on, and I love listening to it.
Well, I'll have to have you on again sometime.
Anytime.
When you start your World War or your Vietnam project,
when I get that project up and going, then maybe I'll come back and tell you about it.
Absolutely. So I want to say you probably inspire me because of your past, because you came from that like the result of like that ideology and like totalitarianism, but you came to the States miraculously enough as that is. I think it's a damn miracle. And you started pursuing like something creative, and you started pursuing photography. You took advantage of that over here.
I did.
So that to me is inspiring, and it kind of makes me feel like more gratitude for what opportunities I have here, or that anybody has here that I'm not taking advantage of. It's like I don't even need to get up off my butt and just do these things, and like quit whining, because it could be a lot worse.
Oh yeah, like it always could be a lot worse.
So thank you for that. Thanks for coming and talking about your story a little bit.
Anytime.
Any advice you want to give to anybody? Like anything?
Well, as a photographer, I would highly recommend people to print their images. That's something that I teach parents and kids alike, that even though you have hard drives and you're saying, hey, it's on my phone, it's on my hard drive, I have it at hard drive at home. But you never know. The hard drive goes out, fire happens, or the computer blows, you lose all that. Yep. Malware will go in and destroy your hard drive. But you have to have it print. It's something that you can keep, and it'll be part of your history.
That's so crazy.
Hard drives are not.
Because I was just thinking, I think it was today. I was like, you know what? I have all these pictures on my phone.
Yep.
Why don't I ever print them out?
Even if it's in a shoebox, put it in a shoebox. At least you have it. It can't be damaged through
get off my butt.
Technology.
Because as you see, I don't have any pictures of my kids in the living room. Did you notice that?
I saw the job paintings, but no pictures.
It took me like 5 years just to hang up my own damn artwork. I don't know what I want to put on my walls. It's like I don't know how to decorate yet. I'm just trying to experiment with colors, but yeah, well, hopefully that'll motivate me to start getting.
But every time I see parents, or every time parents ask for pictures, always print, always print, always print.
Okay. I'll have to look into that then. All right.
So leave with anything, leave with that.
Thanks for the practical advice. Print your pictures, people, so you can have something tangible to actually look at in case we have a cyber war in the future.
Indeed.
All right. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you join me on the next episode of Artist Solace. Bye-bye.